All right, dude, let's talk. We haven't had a show. This is almost a week old now, but I think still worth going into because you only get so many commitments, especially at the high school level. And it seems like you get fewer and fewer high school commitments these days because everybody is doing the whole portal thing. So, Jaiden Kelly-Murray from originally was a Somerville guy for a number of years. Now is Oceanside Collegiate. Has not played for them yet. Has not suited up for them yet, but will suit up for them this year. Four-star player, commits to South Carolina last Friday afternoon. Originally was going to take official visits, was going to do the whole summer thing, then decided no reason to wait. Really good relationship here with Mike Furry, someone South Carolina's been on for quite some time. And once again, we were talking about the second-year receivers that are already in this program. Well, you're talking about another Palmetto State wide receiver with a pretty big ranking beside his name that is committed to South Carolina.
Yeah, and a guy that's been on the radar for a long time, man. Interestingly, Illinois had been his public leader for a while. Justin Stepp, former Gamecock wide receivers coach, was leading that charge. But you always kind of got the sense like, I have a good feeling that Carolina will be able to score this win at the end, but it ended up coming a little bit earlier than we all thought. But we've seen Jaiden in camp at South Carolina last summer in 7-on-7. I remember asking some people just familiar with South Carolina's recruiting a while back, like who are some guys to look out for in that 2027 receiver class very early? And out of the few names, Jaiden Kelly-Murray was one of them. And that includes an in-state receiver class that has, Amari Patterson, who just got offered and has a bunch of Power 4 offers. It seemed like Jaiden Kelly-Murray was someone that they had honed in on very early. He's not the biggest guy. You see the listed height and weight, 5'10", 170, plays both ways at the high school level. At least he did at Somerville. We'll see what they do with him this year at Oceanside. And, a more of that slot type, right? But he is someone who can run. He's been very productive at the high school level. He's just got that kind of football player vibe about him. And I think he also, you watch him on film, he's got some suddenness with how he runs routes. He can also get downfield, track the ball, catch the football too, which is, as we always talk about, it's a pretty important part of playing wide receiver that some people look past. So I think it's a nice get for South Carolina and a culmination of a recruitment that's actually been pretty lengthy.
Yeah, if you're on the video version, we're going to pop on the film here, man, and dive into it a little bit. Chris was talking to somebody who's familiar with him from like an Oceanside perspective, and one of the things that was mentioned to me was how he has just been able to dive right into their playbook and pick things up. Has a full understanding. Like, okay, me being who I want to be, me being who I need to be as a player is going to be determined by me knowing this offense and the scheme and picking it up quickly. I think they will use him in a variety of ways in the backfield at times, even some too, from what I've heard. So it's someone that I think is a kind of prototypical slot receiver at the college level. But if you have him at the high school level, if you're lucky enough, you can run him all over the place. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I like the willingness to go downfield and block. You'll see that in a few of these plays where he's pancaking people downfield. He's being physical. See him right here in the punt return game. That's probably something when you look at his quickness, the suddenness. I'd imagine he's probably going to be one of the 10 guys that they put out there to catch punts in practice and at least have in the mix for that job. You're going to move him around in motion from the slot a lot. Here you see him running downfield and making plays, and really impressed at that Rivals camp that Charles Power was in attendance for down in Miami. Ran a 4.41. Typically, they put him on the laser at that camp, so that's a really, really strong time. Tracked the ball well. And I think even, Chris, when you watch him run routes, there seems to be an understanding of, I don't have to run this route at 100% speed for the entire length of the route. Like, there's a sense of knowing when to throttle down, knowing when to pick up your speed, knowing how to find that opening in a zone, knowing that I'm running out of space and I have to kind of slow down and settle a little bit. And I think there's some nuance to Like you hear a lot of times, oh, that guy breaks off his routes well, and he creates separation. I think there's an understanding here of route running that you would love to see from a high school receiver. So I was talking about this with somebody the other day, as you see a really good block right there, Chris. Your high school guys that you go get, they can't just come in and sit around and wait anymore. Like if you're
Mhm.
going to take a scholarship on a highly recruited guy, you're going to have to pay him. And if you're going to pay a high school guy, they can't just sit around and take up money on your budget, because that's money you could have gone out and spent on a transfer portal guy.
Yep.
That's just how
Yep.
things are now.
Yep.
So my high school guys better be able to learn things pretty quick and better be able to help in some way and be willing to help in some way in year one. So I do think there are some intangibles here, whether it's him helping on special teams, whether it's the quick, settling in at the position. There are some other reasons to like this pickup other than just, hey, he's a 4-star guy, number 200 overall prospect in the country.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, special teams, as you mentioned, could be a way that he could potentially get an early look, make an early impact. And that is the tough part, man, about roster management now is you kind of sit there and go, all right, well, we've got a bunch of we got these needs on the team. You can now fill them through the portal. But even just for like depth gets, a lot of times you're sitting there going, all right, in the pre-portal days, you would say, you remember hearing this a lot, Wes? We're going to need some of these freshmen to come along and play for us this year. You still hear that some. And if the freshmen are the best guys, sure. But nowadays, you're taking portal guys for depth too. And they're more proven than a lot of freshmen because they have played college football, not just at the high school level. So when you're thinking about budgeting and constructing your roster, you have to be more sure. And we've seen South Carolina take transfer heavy classes. They're lower in terms of high school numbers, trying to go more for quality over quantity. I think, man, the early indications that I'm picking up, I think we're going to see a similar approach to this class because, I mean, South Carolina is going to lose some guys off this 2026 roster who have been around for a while, whether they were homegrown freshmen to draft eligible juniors and seniors, or just transfers who've come in and have played a year or two and now they're gone. I think this is going to be South Carolina's path. And Beamer talked to us about this early in the year when we sat down with him. You always want to start with high school recruiting, but you do have to be very cognizant of how you're building the roster. But Jaiden Kelly-Murray, to go back to him, is someone they've recruited for a long time and they clearly believe in and really wanted to add to the class. And, when you watch him on film, watch him in camp, you can see the attributes that South Carolina, that Mike Furry and the rest of the staff like about him.
Yeah, I think you lock this guy in now, man. You do have, at least you've kind of filled that spot. Like you have a highly recruited, highly respected wide receiver now. You can be a little bit more selective, I think, with the other, one or two receiver spots that you're going to take in the class. My guess, you probably want to go with a little bit more size, a little bit more of an outside wide receiver with your additional receivers you take in this class, because now you have JKM, and you look at the class before, you brought in a guy like Sequel Patterson as your main high school receiver in that class. Sequel, a little bit more of a slot guy as well. So I would imagine you want to focus in on kind of that X or that Z, your outside receiver types, bigger, a little bit longer. Not that Kelly-Murray can't do it, but I think prototypically more of a slot guy. So that maybe gives you an idea of what direction you're going to want to go moving forward with this class at the receiver position.